Prior to becoming a widow, I used to agree with the statement that says divorce is like death or divorce is equal to death. And having faced both of them, I can honestly tell you that they're not the same. They're not the same because at least with a divorce, you have time. You have time to reconcile.
I bow my knees to no other. I call no other God. I give my praise to no other. Jesus, you're the only one. Hey everyone, this is a girl JC Jermet back on with Certified Intercessor, and I'm glad today to have Dr. Joan Wright-Good. Hello, Dr. Joan, how are you doing?
Hello, JC. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for accepting the invitation. So I want to tell the audience a little bit about you. I want you to share who you are. Now, I've known Dr. Joan for many years. I've known her. She is excellent at whatever she does. And recently, God reconnected us after 13 years. Can you believe it? And the link is still intact. And she did an awesome job on my book, War Cry Testimonies of a Prophetic Intercessor. And she made the journey easy for me, getting my things uploaded on the different platforms and the different formats, and even helping me out with marketing and stuff like that. And that's just a little snippet of what she does. There's so much more to this wonderful woman of God, and I'm really glad to have her here today. So Dr. Joan, I know I did my little snapshot, but I just want to tell the people a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to get into what the Lord has been doing in your life.
Amazing. Well, thank you for that awesome introduction. Like you said, I dabble in a lot of stuff. First and foremost, I like to say I'm a light bearer, I'm a disciple, and I am a child of God. That's first and foremost. Everything else is gravy. As it relates to business, I own a marketing company and a book publishing company. I do public speaking, and on the ministerial front, I am an ordained minister, and my main focus is helping women to heal from the inside out, helping women to understand that until they know who they were created to be, and until they know who their creator is, and until they understand what purpose is, and until they get to the place where they can heal significantly, because what I've found over the years working with women, and my main focus is women, but what I've found working with women over the years is that many women, they respond and they do things from their place of trauma. And so, if someone gets hurt in the church, they go and start their own church. Or if someone gets hurt in a relationship, they carry over that trauma into another one. And so you have a lot of female, it happens to men too, but that's not my main focus. So you have a lot of female that are bleeding their traumas and insecurities onto other women. And so it just continues to spiral. And then you have a bunch of emotions, but no solid purpose and solid foundation in Christ. So my aim is to help women in that sphere. And then while I'm helping them in that sphere as they heal, I also on the business front help them to use their collective skills and gifts to make themselves wealthy, so they're not dependent on a system that it is going to crumble. They're not dependent on a system that serves another God, but they have their own system that they've placed, because God has given all of us gifts and talents. And when we understand how to monetize and leverage and scale those, then we really can become our own millionaires and stop supporting the kingdom of darkness, because in essence, that's what most people do. They support the kingdom of darkness unknowingly, and then they end up preach against the kingdom of darkness. Well, I mean,
Wow.
you can't be preaching against something you're supporting. On the personal front, I am a mother of 2 adult children. I like to brag in that.
Wow.
2 adult married women at that.
Wow.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I am a grandmother, but I don't use the word grand.
Congratulations.
I don't use
Glam,
the word
right? Glam.
grandmother, exactly.
That's right. I like it.
And unfortunately, I'm a widow, but God is good, God is faithful, and I lack for absolutely nothing.
Right. You mentioned earlier, being a widow. And a lot of people walk through that. And I don't believe it's something that's really talked about when it's fresh. When it's fresh and it's new, people are there, you're getting the phone calls, you're getting the text messages, people coming over for the visits. And then the Thanksgiving service or the funeral happens, and then everybody goes home. And in that moment, you are left now to deal with a piece of your life that is no more. I want you to share on just that journey and how God helped you, what you did, and how God in His supernatural power also helped you to deal with it.
That's a great question because I don't get asked that often, and I'm so glad you went there. So you're right. Usually, when it comes on to the death of a spouse or the death of anyone, the body of Christ usually rallies around, and as you said, the support is there while that is going on. But after a few weeks, a few months for some, that support wanes off. That's a question that I've asked myself many times. And I also kind of had asked that question in my book. I did a book about widowhood, and there are things that I question as it relates to being there for someone when they're alive, especially if they're going through a situation, being there during the process of death, and being there after. Because prior to becoming a widow, I used to agree with the statement that says divorce is like death, or divorce is equal to death. And having faced both of them, I can honestly tell you that they're not the same. They're not the same. Because at least with a divorce, you have time. You have time to reconcile, because we've seen lots of people divorce and went back together. You have time to
Yes.
reconcile. You have time to forgive. You have time to make things right. You have time to make amends. You have time to become friends or not, right? Which is valuable, is still on your side. When
Right.
death occurs, it's final, especially on this side. It's final. There's no going back to say, let's talk about this thing. There's no going back to say, I'm sorry. There's no going back. There's all the what ifs and the what and the what. And so you're left in that space, in that vacuum, to deal with all of that. Plus deal with other things and that's another thing. You go through a divorce, you probably sign the paper. I mean, if you're fighting over properties, that's different, and kids, that's different. At some point that comes to an end. When it comes on to
Right.
death, if you have to fight over stuff as well, there is no defense. Like, the dead person cannot defend. They can't come back and say, oh, I never meant it this way, da da da. So, and I had to deal with all of that. So
Right.
while the support left, I still had court cases that I was dealing with. I still had issues that I had to fight. I still
Mm.
had people pushing me out of stuff. And
Wow.
that was one place that I had to die to self. I had to die to self and give up a whole life insurance to somebody else that I don't know, right? I won't even get into the nitty gritty of that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I had to say, you know what? I am not going to allow money to cause me to lose my faith, or lose my sight, or lose.
Yes.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't lose my salvation, but you know what I mean. I
Yes.
wasn't going to allow them to pull me there. But you talk about intercession. Intercession was my best friend during that time. And I remember one of the cases, because there were two cases. I remember one of the cases, I called up my mom and her friends, and the entire family was praying about that situation. And me and my sister, we showed up at court, and the person didn't show. So, when they don't show, it's a obviously no fault, and it lands in my favor. And I remember going home and getting a call from the person, and I didn't know that that was a person calling, because I had blocked her on everything, because that person, where she just rent, it's a family member of his. So after the court case, she lost the case, she called me and she apologized and said she was doing that just because she was angry that he had passed suddenly, and just angry at the world, angry at God. And here it is, she's angry at those things, but she was taking it out on me. And I wouldn't have gotten the apology, I believe, if I didn't take the high road, if I didn't go into intercession, if I didn't deal with it how I believe God wanted me to deal with it, because I could have gone toe to toe with her. So, there's all of that you deal with when it comes on to death, and it continues, and then the memorial happens, and you have to keep remembering these things. So it's very much
Wow.
different. Yeah, it's very much different from a divorce. But I believe God has kept me. He kept me. He kept me in my right mind. He kept me financially. He kept me in every area that you can think about. So much so that, when I look back, um, I believe that there was a preparation that was happening in the spirit. And that, I know that is hard to
Wow.
explain. explain. I know it's hard to explain, and you have to be in that frame of mind and mindset to understand. But there was a preparation that was taking place, and you know, it's like God brought it back to me that He knew before the beginning of time when Dean would pass. Like nothing that I could have done or anybody else could have done could change this. He
Yes.
already knew his end. And the Bible talks about the believer who dies in Christ. So I don't have anything. Yes, I grieve. I grieve. And I tell people there's a difference between mourning and grieving. I don't mourn, I grieve. And oftentimes, also say I don't grieve him passing. I grieve
The
the
loss.
beautiful, yes, I grieve the loss. I grieve the beautiful life he could have had. And I grieve the fact that, in my opinion, that he himself didn't understand his beautiful purpose. You know, um, again, that
Yeah.
was another podcast to expound and extrapolate.
We gotta
Extrapolate.
do part two,
Yes,
right?
yes, 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 yes.
Gotta do part
Because we
two.
talk
So
about women a lot, but men face a lot of things, a lot of unspoken pain that they don't talk about.
yes,
Because there's not a
yes,
safe space for men. When men talk,
yes,
people call
yes,
them sus and sissy and all these things. And so they bear a lot of things on the inside. So that's what I'm leaning
yes,
towards when I say that.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I definitely, definitely take you up on that one, Dr. Joan. I am going to, because of just the vision of what this platform is, is
Yes.
all about.
Mhm.
And to
For me, grieving is appreciating the life, appreciating that this person has lived out their promise. God promises certain years, and we all have to die. And so that's the difference. I'm not mourning. The Bible talks about mourning like the world mourns, feeling like there's no hope. That's not me. I grieve the fact that he's no longer here. I grieve the fact that what I thought would have been forever, girl, I thought, first of all, I thought I would have one marriage and done. And then to have two, and then
yes,
that is taken away. So,
yes,
I grieve what I thought was my goal was not
mm-hmm,
fulfilled, but spiritually it
mm-hmm,
was fulfilled because
mm-hmm.
yes, I learned so much in my marriage. I grew so much. There was a respect and love that he gave me that I never got before. I understood what it meant for a man to love you out loud. Even my daughter,
Wow.
even my daughter was saying that she saw that. That was an example she saw in him. Like, that was the first I was getting nicknames. I had so many nicknames. I was Chocolate Drop. I was Warrior Princess. I was Dumpling. I was JJ. I was Pookie. That was the first. And my one name for him was Yellow Man. I call him Yellow Man. And he was very flawed, like we all are, but at the
Yes.
same time he reminded me of David. Like, he was so apologetic. Yes, he apologized, he apologized, but he was so apologetic. So there were things that I got to learn and I got to see that I never saw in any other relationship. Coming to America, he taught me so much when I got here. And so I celebrate that. That's what I celebrate. So
Wow.
I don't mourn his loss. I do grieve. I grieve when I remember the times we had. I grieve the bad times as well. I think about what could have been done differently, how we could have healed through certain things differently. So that
Yes.
is the difference between mourning and hoping. There's a hope when you grieve, and when you mourn, it's like a deep loss. I'm not there. That's not where I am.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much. There's no marriage that's perfect.
No.
I tell anybody, and I've heard even Bishop T.D. Jake said this before, that if anyone comes before you and tell you it's been 17 years of this, they lying. They just as how flawed we are, the person that we're married to, we weigh the thing, we wait,
Mhm.
does the good that I see in you outweigh the bad? Because we're both walking through, we're both being processed, we're both being changed. God is working on us. But there's some things that are a no-no, and there's some things that we're gonna walk and we're gonna work it out, because at the end of the day, we're both flawed. And it's also a willingness, to work together. And in a lot of marriages, unfortunately, it's almost like we're working against each other together, and it makes a difference, because two flawed people, I'm sure somehow there may be someone who stumbles upon this program who dealing with some form of loss, because it could be a loss of a, you know, a miscarriage, different kind of loss. What was the thing in your alone time with God that helped you? Did you get counseling? What were some of the things that you did? Yes, we understand the frame of mind. And the thing is, it was very tumultuous for you, because here you are grieving, but court case happening, this over here happening. It's almost like it came to rob you of dealing with that process. But what thing did you do in that process that can help somebody else? Because that's what we want at the end of the day. And I'm sure that's what your story, and that's what you've been using your story to do. What's one recommendation that you give, or even two, in terms of handling that loss?
So I'll tell you what I did, and then I'll suggest to your audience what they can do, because I'm not going to take it for granted that what I did will work for everyone, you know. So in the initial stages, I fasted a lot. I fasted a lot. I fasted through the entire period, because for me, fasting is not just, it's not just a time to do spiritual rambling. If you read Ecclesiastes, if you read, I can't recall the other chapter now, that tells you what a true fast is, right? It's not just, again, rambling off in the spirit. Fasting allows you to discipline your flesh, right? You discipline your flesh, and then in disciplining your flesh while fasting, you also do the things that you don't want to do. What do I mean by that? In places where you don't want to be kind, you have to be kind.
Mm-hmm.
The scripture talks about feeding the hungry and helping the helpless and all of that. So during that time, I did a lot of that. That was when I was giving to charities. That was when I had a retreat to help women. So I had that question asked. Someone was asking me if I'm deflecting, and I said to the contrary, because they thought I wasn't dealing with it. I said to the contrary, because everybody deal with loss differently, right? And that's why I
Yes.
said I would say what I did, and then I'll make suggestions. And so I did those things. I helped other women. I gave charity wise. I made sure that I surrounded myself with only positive thinking people. I depended on my family a lot during that time. My sister was heavily supportive during that time. And when I say heavily supportive, both spiritually and physically, she wanted to fight everybody. That's why she came, that's why she came to me.
Let me
Came
at
to me.
him. Let me at him.
Yes, yes. That's why she came with me to court. She wanted to beat up everybody. But my mother was very strong during that time. Um, yeah, so the support was good. But then one of the things that really helped me was that I disassociate what I was going through with who I am, because what you're going through doesn't change who you. It shouldn't change who you are, right? If it does change who you are, whatever you change to become, that's what you were already. It just magnified, you know. So if, for example, if when you're going through a process, right, the impurities fall off and the pureness of you should come out. If the impurity is what stays at the top, you're already defiled. And so during that time, I disassociated, like I said, what was going on. I put it in a box. Okay, this has happened. This is going on, but I will not allow it to affect my peace. I will not allow it to affect my love for people. I will not allow it to drive me into depression. And so what did I do? I traveled. I traveled. I met new people. I saw new things. I discovered new culture. And what that did for me, it took me out of this little bubble that I was in. Because what the enemy does, right? Whenever you go through something, the enemy will have you to feel that you're the only one suffering like this. You know, like Jeremiah said, oh, I'm the only prophet left, and there's no. And God said, what you talking about? I have all these other prophets that are doing what I have assigned them to do. And so the enemy uses that to put you in a place where you feel dark, you feel depressed. And because he wants you to, at the end of the day, either curse God or take your life,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's
Mm-hmm.
what he wants. And so if you find yourself going down that dark rabbit hole, you have to find something to take yourself out of that. You have to
Yes.
surround yourself with new things. And when it's like coming up for sunlight, you realize I'm not, I don't need to be here. I'm not the only one going through this. So I traveled a lot. I experienced new things. So by the time I came back, you know, I was on cloud nine, and so I was able to
Wow.
separate. Yeah, I was able to separate and dissect and put things in their rightful place and not allow anything to erode my faith or my peace. Yeah. While I didn't do therapy, because I was already doing therapy months before he had passed. We were already doing therapy. I personally was in therapy, so I didn't have to do therapy, but I did a lot. I did talk to my pastor a lot, because there was a prophetic word that had come out months before that happened. And so, yeah, so with him passing, a lot of things were coming to pass. And so I talked to my pastor a lot in terms of bringing clarity to that prophetic word, because prophecy without teaching brings confusion. And so
Come on, yeah.
I had to make sure that there was some teaching that came along with that would bring clarity and not confusion. So those were the things I did. So I would
Right.
suggest to your audience, if you're going through that, first of all, you want to make sure that you're prayed up. And even if you can't pray,
Mm.
because when you're going through crisis, sometimes you don't have the words.
Hmm.
You kneel down, and instead of your mind going to a spiritual place, you start thinking about everything else. So I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
don't be hard on yourself if you find that you're not praying during that time. Trust me, God understands, right? So find people who can pray with you and for you, right? Do that. If you can afford to fast, because everybody can fast, right? But if you can fast, you want to fast and ask God to remove the pain of the hurt and the trauma away from you, and give you a heart that is a heart that's like his, a heart that knows how to process what's going on. Because sometimes you really need to process things so you're not left bitter. You want to
Mm-hmm.
ask God not to make you, like Naomi said, don't call me Naomi, call me bitter. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be bitter. So you want to ask
Yeah.
God to give you a heart that pines and seek after him. Then you want to find people who will not regurgitate the hurt. Regurgitate, you know, this person should be doing this and that person, and why are you buying two cats? No,
True.
don't.
True.
Get people who understand where you are and who can pray you through
Mm-hmm.
and counsel you correctly. If you have
Wow.
to get
Yes.
therapy, get therapy. If you cannot afford therapy, there are free platforms on Facebook. There's one called Help Therapy, I believe, but Google and you'll find places that are offering free therapy. Or go to your church, or find that one person that you believe is a good mentor. You want to do that. And like I said, sometimes you have to disassociate yourself. It's like what we said in Jamaica, take away yourself. Disassociate yourself from what's going on. For you, if you do drawing, do drawing. If you do artwork, if you paint, if you travel, anything that will cause your mind to be a little bit at ease and at peace and away from the
Yes. Yes.
situation, because unless you heal, you can't deal with the hurt, right?
That's
Because
true.
hurt
Yeah.
keeps on hurting. And so you want to
Yes.
separate yourself. And then when you
Yes.
find yourself out of the rut, I tell people, you don't move on. Sometimes people say, when are you going to move on? You don't move on, you move forward. Because that person will always be a part of you, a part of your history, a part of your life, a part of your journey. And so you never move on, you move forward. I say when that time comes, don't be afraid to entertain what it means moving forward. And I'm not saying jump up and get into another relationship, because sometimes we need to be alone so that God can deal with us. And a lot just get another relationship to fix, because you wouldn't have learned your lesson. Learn how to date yourself. Learn how to, girl, I've been on trips by myself. I date myself. I go to movies. I take myself to dinner. I do everything by myself.
Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, so we're gonna get to the juicy topic. When I called you, this was really what I wanted to talk about, but God has a way of just spinning things, because I believe that He had us talk about those things, because, and this is how I want this program to be. I want Him to navigate. I want Him to take the reins, because He knows what the audience needs. So coming to America, growing up, they see America, the land of opportunity, and a lot of people migrate and they think that everything is gonna go so fine. And if you talk to a lot of people who have migrated to this country, it's rough. I bow